Pennsylvania State Route 33, yeah. Alright, hello everyone, I am Quartermorse437, and today I am rebooting what I believe to be my worst Control City video ever. My Pennsylvania Route 33 video from October 2023. Now, this isn't exactly a big or exciting project by any means, but I've been teasing the fact that I was going to do this for almost a year at this point, so let's just get it done and over with now. Let's start by taking a look at the map of the route of Pennsylvania Route 33. We can see that it starts at Interstate 78 near Easton, and it goes up to Interstate 80 just west of Stroudsburg. It's only about 30 miles long or so, but an interesting thing about this Pennsylvania State Route is that it is a freeway the entire time. But before we start talking about this route, I'd like to remind you all that if you liked the video, please be sure to leave a like. If you have any feedback for me, or if you want to discuss this route, please be sure to drop a comment down below. And if you really enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. But with all that said, let us now talk about Pennsylvania Route 33 northbound. We start here on Interstate 78 eastbound, and at the exit for Pennsylvania 33 at the beginning, we can see that it is signed North Pennsylvania 33 to US 22, and our control city is going to be Stroudsburg, which I think is the correct choice because Stroudsburg isn't exactly a large city or anything, but since this is a state route, and that's roughly where we will be meeting Interstate 80, I think that does make a whole lot of sense. And before we even get off the ramp to get on Pennsylvania 33, we can already see that we get a mile 0.1 marker, so I just thought that was really interesting. And then here is the ramp from Interstate 78 to start Pennsylvania Route 33. Pretty interesting ramp, goes all twisty turny for quite a while. And then just a little bit further up the road, we are getting a list of Bethlehem and Easton exits. Quite interesting. You don't really see a list of exits for two cities very often. And we can also see that we are about to cross over the Lehigh River on the Gene Hartzell Memorial Bridge. Here is a look at the Lehigh River from this bridge. And we also got our first Reassurance Keystone right here, so that is pretty cool. Now we meet US 22, and it is getting signed west for Bethlehem and east for Easton. And on that westbound sign, I feel like you could throw up Allentown on there as well, because that would actually be the fastest way to get back over to Allentown at this point. Although I think eastbound getting signed for Easton does make sense, because at this point we are a few miles west of Easton, and US 22 will take you into Easton. So overall, I'd say this is decently signed. Again, maybe you could throw Allentown on that westbound sign as well, but Bethlehem also works, I'd say. And on US 22, we are still getting signed for Stroudsburg, as we should be. And a little bit further up the road, here is the first mileage sign that we will see in this video, with Wind Gap on the top line at 4 miles away and Stroudsburg on the bottom line at 19 miles away, which it should be. And now this route is about to get really beautiful. Here we are in Wind Gap, meaning Pennsylvania Route 512. As we can see in the background, we're about to go through some mountains. And if we look at Pennsylvania Route 512, we can see that northbound Pennsylvania Route 33 is getting signed for Stroudsburg once again. Correct choice. Here we are going through the mountains on Pennsylvania 33. Once again, really nice scenery here. Here's why we were actually getting signed for Stroudsburg this whole time. We are about to meet US 209 and have a brief concurrency with northbound US 209, while the exit for southbound US 209 is coming up very shortly, as we can kind of see by that sign in the distance. And we get this sign right here telling us northbound US 209 and Pennsylvania 33 to Interstate 80 straight ahead. Here are our reassurance shields for both US 209 and Pennsylvania 33, while in the distance we get a mile marker with Stroudsburg still on the bottom line at 8 miles away. Now we're about to split from US 209, and we can see that if you want to go on westbound Interstate 80, you'll want to stay on Pennsylvania 33, but if you want to go east on Interstate 80, you'll actually want to take US 209 over there. And this is reinforced with these signs saying North US 209 to East Interstate 80, Stroudsburg, keep right, and North Pennsylvania 33 to West Interstate 80, Bartonsville and Hazleton. Now, if we're going to list the control cities on these signs, for westbound Interstate 80, it should be Scranton, and in fact, you could just have Scranton on that sign, because when we meet Interstate 80, we will also meet Pennsylvania 611, and if you go straight ahead on Pennsylvania 611, you can also get to Scranton that way, so why have Bartonsville and Hazleton on there when you can just have Scranton? And if we're talking about eastbound Interstate 80, how about New York City? Because Interstate 80's eastbound control city should be New York City, and the whole reason that Stroudsburg is even on that sign is because US 209 meets Interstate 80 in Stroudsburg. So, PennDOT fumbling the ball as always with Interstate 80 and its control cities. Now we are splitting off of US 209 as it continues straight ahead, and we see the same control cities that we just saw, along with these two West Interstate 80 and two East Interstate 80 shields right here. Now we are starting to run out of road for Pennsylvania 33 as we get this sign telling us that West Interstate 80 and Pennsylvania 611 for Hazleton and Bartonsville are coming up in half a mile. And now we get an end Pennsylvania 33 Keystone and a junction Interstate 80 and Pennsylvania 611. And a little further down the road, we are getting West Interstate 80 Hazleton, Pennsylvania 611 Bartonsville. And that Bartonsville should say Tannersville, because Bartonsville is basically just a neighborhood of Stroudsburg, while Tannersville is its own separate thing entirely. And I think it makes sense because it's a decently sizable place for a state route to be signed. And of course, Interstate 80 West, Hazleton, no, that should be Scranton, because you can take it over to Interstate 380, which will take you to Scranton. Interestingly, even though we already had our end Pennsylvania 33 Keystone, we still continue to get mile markers, because the N33 Keystone was at mile 28.1, but now here we are at mile 28.3, still getting them, like I just said. And we got another one here at the actual split of Interstate 80, again getting signed for Hazleton, and 611 for Bartonsville, although we can also see another sign for Stroudsburg, which is very interesting. But either way, that will now end Pennsylvania 33 northbound, and we will now talk about southbound Pennsylvania 33. We start by looking at Interstate 80 eastbound, which is getting pulled through to northbound US 209 with no control city, which should be New York City, but oh wait, that's just an imaginary place that exists only in Never Never Land. But anyway, there's an exit coming up for Pennsylvania 611 in a quarter of a mile, which is getting signed for Bartonsville. And, you know, this time I actually don't think there's really anything else that you could put on there, because if you're coming from west of here, you already would have had an exit to get on 611 to go to Tannersville, and anywhere east of here, you might as well just stay on Interstate 80 because it'd be a little bit faster. Although what's actually important to us is the fact that we are exiting off right here, getting signed to southbound US 209, and our control city is Snydersville, which is an unincorporated community. We are only getting signed that because of one exit for business US 209 that will take you over there. I think I'd rather see Wind Gap, honestly. Although, you could probably go with other choices for that, but we'll get into it a bit later. Anyways, here we are merging in with another ramp to form the southbound lanes of Pennsylvania 33. And we got our first reassurance keystone right here. along with a 2 South 209 shield. Here is that exit for Business 209 that I mentioned earlier. As we can see, once again, this is why we were getting signed for Snydersville. And now we meet US 209 here at this Y junction as we get a junction South US 209 shield. Here's where US 209 southbound splits off from us getting signed for Lehighton. And then after that exit, we get a mileage sign with Salisbury on the top line. Wind Gap is on the second line at 6 miles away. And our bottom line is Easton at 24 miles away. Now, honestly, I would prefer to see Bethlehem on this bottom line, or heck, maybe even Harrisburg, because if you take 78 westbound from the southern terminus of 33, you will get over to Harrisburg that way. And if you came all this way down from Interstate 80, if you're going to New York City, you might as well have just stayed on that. And then here's another mileage sign where Easton is on the top line at 16 miles away, and we get Bethlehem on the bottom line at 17 miles away. So I guess this could work, but again, I would kind of like to see Harrisburg. Although, again, maybe there's other ways you could have gotten to Harrisburg from Interstate 80 at that point. Now we meet US 22 once again, and it gets signed west for Bethlehem and Allentown. Eastbound gets signed for Easton once again. And we get some information about Interstate 78 from 4 miles away, which is pretty rare to see in Pennsylvania. And it gets the fantastic control cities of New York City and Harrisburg. So overall, I'd say this is a pretty good gantry right here. And we now get a little closer to Interstate 78, and it's getting signed westbound for both Allentown and Harrisburg, eastbound for New Jersey and New York City. So, still a pretty good sign, even if you really don't need New Jersey on there. Now we're once again about to cross the Lehigh River as we're almost at the end of Pennsylvania Route 33 southbound. And we get this sign telling us that if you want to take Interstate 78 eastbound for New Jersey, you'll want to get in the left lane. And we get another overhead sign telling us the same control cities that we had on the last one, but now we're just a mile closer. And we get our end Pennsylvania 33 keystone going in this direction, as we can see the split for Interstate 78 with those same control cities just up ahead. And here's a closer look at those signs at the actual split. Okay, let's talk about Quarter Orange 437's the way it should be for Pennsylvania Route 33. This would be pretty quick and simple. Going northbound from the beginning, I say it should be Stroudsburg for all of the reasons that I've already mentioned before. But when we split from US 209, I say then it should be Scranton, because if you want to go to Scranton, that would be the way you'd be taking at that point to go there. And then southbound, it could honestly be any number of things, obviously, because of the choice to go east or west on Interstate 78. But I feel like the majority of traffic would probably be bound for Harrisburg, so that's what I'm gonna go with. And with that said, now I would like to tell you all about my plans for the next few Control City videos. Or at least, today we're going to be talking about just the next 2. The next video that I'm going to be doing will be US 85 northbound. We'll be starting talking about that route, although it's going to be a couple of months, because as of recording this, I'm about to be going on a big road trip in a couple of weeks, so I won't be able to work on any videos during that time. But you can expect to see that at some point, maybe by the end of the summer or early in fall. But in any case, after that, then I'm going to be doing my own version of Interstate 476, because I thought that would be a really fun road to cover, even though technically there are at least 2 other videos about it on YouTube, but you know what, I just wanted to do my own spin on it. But in any case, that's all I'm going to share with you for right now. you'll have to watch the next couple of videos for some other plans that I have. I have a lot of them, but if I were to talk about them right now, we'd be here all day. So with all that said, thank you all so much for watching this rebooted version of Pennsylvania Route 33, and in whatever video I upload next, I'll see you then. Have a good one.